The café hummed with the soft clinking of cups and low conversations, its warm lights cutting through the evening's chill. Ava sat near the window, nervously stirring her cappuccino, even though the foam had long since melted. Her son, Liam, sat across from her, his little legs swinging as he stacked sugar packets into a crooked tower. Comment below and tell how you like the story. Ava checked the time again. 10 minutes late. She chewed her lip, rehearsing how she'd explain the impossible. That she hadn't been able to find a babysitter, that Liam would have to tag along. Blind dates were hard enough, but bringing her son? That was social suicide in the dating world. Before she could sink too deep into self-doubt, the door opened, letting in a burst of cool air. A tall man stepped inside, scanning the room. His presence was magnetic, commanded without trying. Ava knew instantly. This had to be him. Julian. Her stomach flipped. She straightened, forcing a smile as he approached. "You must be Ava," he said, his voice smooth but carrying a weight she couldn't quite place. His gaze flicked to Liam, curiosity sparking, though not the annoyance she feared. "Yes," she replied quickly. "And this is Liam. I'm so sorry I couldn't find a sitter. If this ruins everything." Julian raised a hand, stopping her apology midair. Then he crouched to Liam's level. "Hi, Liam. That is serious castle you got there. Mind if I help?" Liam blinked, then grinned, handing him a sugar packet like it was an invitation. Ava exhaled, relief rushing through her chest. She hadn't realized how tightly she'd been bracing for rejection until it didn't come. Julian slid into the booth, his expensive suit at odds with the playful ease in his manner. He wasn't what she expected at all. As the conversation unfolded, Ava found herself laughing, actually laughing for the first time in weeks. Julian asked questions that showed he was listening, not just making small talk. He didn't glance at his phone. He didn't act inconvenienced. Instead, he leaned in, his focus steady on her, as though the rest of the cafe had blurred away. But beneath his calm charm, there was something else. A shadow in his eyes, fleeting but unmistakable. Ava noticed it during the pauses, in the way his smile sometimes faltered when he thought no one was looking. He was a man who carried something heavy, though he kept it hidden well. When Liam interrupted to ask if pancakes could be dinner, Julian chuckled and said, "I think pancakes are perfect any time of day." Ava's heart tightened at how easily he joined their rhythm, as if he'd always belonged. For the first time in a long while, Ava wondered if maybe, just maybe, this evening could change more than she dared to hope. The night outside had deepened by the time Ava realized how long they'd been sitting together. What was meant to be a short coffee had stretched into hours, the world beyond the cafe slipping away while laughter and quiet words filled the space between them. Liam had eventually tired of his sugar packet construction and now leaned sleepily against Ava's side, his head heavy on her arm. She brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, whispering a soft, motherly hum. When she looked up, Julian was watching her, not with judgment or impatience, but with an expression she couldn't quite name. Respect, maybe. Admiration, even. "You're good with him," Julian said quietly. Ava smiled faintly, though her chest tightened at the compliment. "I try. Some days are harder than others, but he's my whole world." Julian nodded, his gaze lingering on Liam's small face. There was a gentleness in his features now, but beneath it Ava caught that shadow again, the one she noticed earlier. Pain, buried deep, flickered behind his eyes. "What about you?" she asked cautiously. "Do you have kids?" He hesitated, his jaw tightening before he shook his head. "No, life hasn't worked out that way." Ava didn't press, though the heaviness in his voice made her want to. She sensed it wasn't just about choice. There was loss there, hidden behind the carefully measured words. Silence settled for a moment, but it wasn't uncomfortable. If anything, it felt like an unspoken understanding. Two people, both carrying different kinds of weight, finding a strange peace in each other's company. The waitress appeared with the check, breaking the moment. Julian reached for it before Ava could protest. "You don't have to," she began. "I want to," he said simply, sliding his card across the table. His tone left no room for argument, yet it wasn't domineering. It was matter-of-fact, almost tender. When the bill was settled, they gathered their things. Liam stirred, blinking awake. "Are we going home, Mommy?" he mumbled. "Yes, sweetheart," Ava whispered, kissing his temple. Julian offered to walk them to the car. Ava hesitated, then nodded. Outside, the city hummed with neon and headlights, the air cool against their cheeks. Liam clutched Ava's hand, but his other reached unconsciously toward Julian, who instinctively adjusted his stride, so the little boy felt included. Ava noticed, and her heart warmed in a way she hadn't expected. At the car, she turned to Julian. The streetlight cast a soft glow across his face, highlighting the quiet weariness beneath his calm exterior. "Thank you," she said, her voice low, "for tonight, for not making me feel like I had to apologize for my life." His brows furrowed. "Ava, you never have to apologize for your son, or for being his mother." The conviction in his voice caught her off guard, stirring something fragile inside her. For a moment, they stood there, silent, stretching, both unsure what to say next. Then Liam yawned loudly, breaking the tension. Ava laughed softly, and Julian's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Good night, Ava," he said finally. "Good night, Liam." "Good night, Julian," she replied. As she drove away, Ava couldn't stop replaying his words in her mind. And somewhere high above the city, in a man's guarded heart, the faintest spark of hope began to glow. The week that followed was different. Ava found herself thinking about Julian more than she wanted to admit. His words at the car, "You never have to apologize for your son," replayed in her mind late at night, a comfort she hadn't known she needed. For years, she had carried the quiet ache of being overlooked, of men walking away once they saw her truth. Julian, however, had stayed. She tried to dismiss it, telling herself it was just one evening. But when her phone buzzed on Saturday morning, her heart jumped. A simple message glowed on the screen. "Did Liam get his pancakes?" Ava smiled despite herself. "Yes, he did. Pancakes are our tradition," she typed back. Almost instantly, his reply appeared. "Then maybe one day I'll join you for that tradition." The words unsettled her more than she expected. She wasn't ready for someone stepping into her carefully built routine, into Liam's world. Yet a part of her, one she hadn't listened to in years, whispered, "What if this is different?" The following weekend, Julian stood in her modest kitchen, looking slightly out of place in a crisp white shirt, his jacket draped over the back of a chair. Liam, beaming, dragged out his colored pencils to show Julian his drawings while Ava worked at the stove, flipping golden pancakes. Julian leaned down, listening intently as Liam explained how dragons were the strongest creatures alive. "I believe you," Julian said solemnly, "though I think you might be braver than a dragon yourself." Liam giggled, basking in the attention. Ava turned, spatula in hand, catching the warmth in Julian's expression as he watched her son. Her chest tightened, not with fear this time, but with something far more dangerous. Hope. They ate together, laughter filling the small kitchen. Ava couldn't remember the last time her home had felt so alive. When Liam ran off to fetch another drawing, Ava busied herself with the dishes, needing a moment to breathe. But Julian joined her, rolling up his sleeves without hesitation. "You don't have to help," she murmured, rinsing a plate. "I know," he said softly, taking it from her hands. "But I want to." Their fingers brushed, a spark passing through her. She froze, unsure, but Julian didn't pull away this time. His voice lowered, steady yet vulnerable. "I need to be honest with you. I've kept people at a distance for years because I've lost too much. And I thought if I didn't let anyone close, I couldn't lose again." Ava set the dish aside, her throat tightening. "I understand. I've lost too, just in a different way. It changes you." Julian's gaze found hers, filled with something raw. "But sitting here with you and Liam, for the first time in a long time, I don't feel empty." Her heart stumbled. She wanted to protect herself, to keep the walls intact, but Liam's laughter rang from the other room, reminding her what it felt like when joy found its way back in. Maybe broken people didn't have to stay broken. Maybe, just maybe, they could find something whole together. The city seemed quieter that night as Ava and Liam left the cafe, Julian walking a step behind them. The streetlights painted soft pools of gold on the pavement, and the hum of passing cars faded into the background. Ava pulled Liam's jacket tighter around him, feeling the weight of the evening pressed gently on her shoulders. At the car, Liam looked up at Julian with sleepy curiosity. "Will you come with us?" he asked, his small voice breaking the silence. Ava stiffened, already forming an apology, but Julian crouched down to meet Liam's gaze. "Not tonight," he said kindly, "but I hope I'll see you again soon." Satisfied, Liam nodded before climbing into the back seat. Ava buckled him in, her heart heavy with the simple trust her son had already placed in Julian. Children had a way of sensing things adults often complicated, and Liam, without hesitation, had welcomed him in. When she turned back, Julian was still watching her, his expression unreadable. "You don't have to thank me," he said softly, as if he'd heard the words she hadn't yet spoken. "But I do," she replied. "Most people don't stay. Most don't even try once they see the reality of my life." Something flickered across his face. Not pity, but anger on her behalf. "Then they were fools," he said simply, "because what I see is strength. What I see is someone who doesn't quit, even when life has given her every reason to." The words sank into her like sunlight after a long winter. She hadn't realized how deeply she had needed someone to say that aloud. For years, she had carried her battles quietly, convincing herself that endurance was invisible, unnoticed. Yet here Julian was, seeing her in ways no one else had dared. Their eyes held for a moment, the silence between them thrumming with questions neither was ready to voice. Ava thought of the shadow she glimpsed in his gaze, the pain he carried but rarely revealed. Her voice was barely a whisper when she said, "You've lost someone, haven't you?" Julian's jaw tightened. He didn't answer right away. Finally, he nodded, his words rough around the edges. "Yes, and for a long time, I thought it meant I had to live behind walls. Safer that way." She hesitated, then reached out. Her fingertips brushed lightly against his hand, a touch so small, yet it felt like the bravest thing she had ever done. "Maybe you don't have to figure it out alone anymore." For a man who lived his life in control, Julian felt the ground shift beneath him. That single gesture broke through the fences he thought were unshakable. Before he could respond, Liam's drowsy voice carried from the back seat. "Mommy, pancakes tomorrow?" Ava laughed softly, leaning into the car. "Yes, sweetheart, pancakes tomorrow." Julian watched, something unfamiliar swelling in his chest. It was dangerous to imagine mornings filled with warmth and laughter, but he couldn't stop himself. When Ava slid into the driver's seat, she looked at him one last time. "Good night, Julian." His reply was quiet, certain. "Good night, Ava." "Good night, Liam." As the car pulled away, Julian remained under the glow of the streetlight, a man who had thought hope was long behind him, now realizing it had just returned. Morning light streamed gently through the thin curtains of Ava's apartment. The kitchen was alive with the scent of butter and syrup as pancakes sizzled on the pan. Liam sat at the small table, humming to himself while arranging strawberries into a smiley face on his plate. For him, it was just another Saturday. For Ava, it felt different, brighter, lighter, as though the shadows of last night had lifted. Liam looked up suddenly, his eyes sparkling. "Mommy, do you think Mr. Julian likes pancakes too?" The question caught her off guard. She paused with a spatula in hand, a soft smile tugging at her lips. "Why do you ask, sweetheart?" "Because," Liam said simply, he looked lonely. Maybe pancakes would make him happy. Ava's chest ached at her son's innocent wisdom. Leave it to a child to cut through everything and find the truth. "Maybe they would," she whispered. Later that afternoon, while Liam was napping, Ava found herself staring at her phone. She wanted to reach out, but the hesitation lingered. What if she was wrong? What if Julian's kindness had been nothing more than politeness? Before she could spiral too far, a soft knock echoed at the door. When she opened it, Julian stood there, still in his suit, his tie loosened, his expression uncertain yet hopeful. In his hands was a small paper bag. "I didn't know how else to do this," he admitted, almost sheepish. "So I brought pancakes. Thought maybe we could share." Ava blinked, caught between laughter and something dangerously close to joy. "You actually brought pancakes?" He shrugged, a rare grin tugging at his lips. It felt right. Before Ava could respond, Liam darted out from his room, rubbing his eyes. When he saw Julian, his face lit up. "You came back," he exclaimed, wrapping his little arms around Julian's legs. Julian froze for a moment, then carefully bent down, returning the hug. The simple trust in that embrace nearly undid him. For years, he had lived surrounded by walls, but this child had torn through them in seconds. Soon, the three of them sat around a small table, laughter and conversation filling the space. They ate pancakes, slightly uneven in shape but rich with warmth. And for once, Ava didn't feel the weight of her struggles pressing so heavily on her. Julian wasn't a stranger at her table anymore. He was a part of it, a piece of something she hadn't dared dream she could have again. As Liam chattered about dragons and superheroes, Julian and Ava shared a glance across the table. It wasn't a promise, not yet, but it was a beginning. And beginnings, she realized, were often enough. Ava looked at Julian and smiled, a real, unguarded smile. He returned it, his eyes steady, as if silently promising he wasn't going anywhere. And in that little kitchen, with pancakes and possibility, a new chapter of their lives quietly began. Don't forget to like and subscribe.